You're tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network, featuring news, interviews, and commentary on all things Black Hollywood. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is Black Hollywood Live, Geek.Nerd.Tech, featuring a weekly roundup of tech news and gossip. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host for Black Hollywood Live, Geek.Nerd.Tech.
Welcome to Geek.Nerd.Tech. We are back. No verse today?
No verse.
All right. My ox clothes like Steve Austin. I got him in the square. I will let you run. Nah, that ain't fair. So I clear my vision so I can spot him, snatch him up by the neck and say, I got him, Achilles.
Oh my goodness.
No?
I think we're having technical difficulties.
Welcome to Geek.Nerd.Tech, the show we break down nerd culture and tech news from a black and brown geek perspective. I promise you I will never rap again.
You said that last time.
I know.
You actually promised that you would rap every show.
That's right. That's true. That rap is from 1987. So
When?
1987.
When you were 20?
When I was 20. Look at that. Shots fired. Got a good one. I'm here with, as always, with Achilles Shine. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. It's a lot of activity happening, but it's productive. It's good. Nice Friday.
Good.
How about yourself, man?
I'm doing well. Same. A little busy. Trying to get adjusted to 2015.
I know, right?
In all ways, shape, and form. But everything's good.
We're already out of January. That's fast.
I know.
Man, it's quick.
The month of the goat is already like,
Done.
the sun is set.
Man.
On the month of the goat.
Actually, we don't have a month.
We don't.
We have a whole year cycle. That's why we're
right.
the first month.
That's right. We're speaking of us. We're both Capricorns. Our birthdays were 2 weeks ago. Alexis, how are you doing in there?
I am good, actually. And I am a Leo, so, oh, you're such a jerk.
I'm
So
sorry.
mean.
I'm sorry.
No.
So mean.
Okay. No, it's fine. Well, so it's good to have you back. We missed you last week because
I know, I was so sick.
Yeah, you were sick, but
No, you back. You back.
I'm glad
Yes.
you're healthy. So let's jump into this. We do have a guest today, which we're very excited about. We have Anthony R. Howard on today, who's a technology expert who is going to talk to us about a lot of things, all things technology. He's a defense expert. He's a tech expert. He is known as, in some circles, as the IT superhero, if you will. So
The number one.
The number one IT superhero. And so we're very excited to talk to him about sort of the what goes on in the world of defense, in terms of
Social media.
in the world of social media, which we'll talk a lot about today. And so he'll be joining us in the back half of the show. But before that, let's get through some of these stories that we have. I want to talk about this thing caught my eye because we've been talking a lot about wearables, and the proliferation of wearables. We talk about the watch and the Fit. You talked about the Fitbit, and I was talking about last week the iWatch.
The Fitbit.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
I
see you.
just bought my boyfriend one of those.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah, he
Which
loves
one?
it.
You got the HR?
I can't remember which one it
Okay.
is. It's the one that you can get caller ID with.
Yeah, that's the HR.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I got. It's dope. Anyway,
okay.
I'm sorry. I just had
Didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry about
I
that.
had to stretch before the show.
What were you saying?
Exactly. I'm burning calories by doing that.
I see. Well, see, I'm glad you got it. As you see, I've not got one yet. But I'm
Gonna get one.
I'm gonna get one. Yeah, I'm trying to hold out for the Apple Watch, but we'll see. We'll see. But this is a technology. This is something that's come up with this new sensor that really deals with athletes mostly, and it talks about a way to give more nuanced data. And we talked a lot about about burning calories and the standard stuff, but importing this wearable technology into ways that you can collect data to find out to prevent injuries on mostly track and field athletes who put a tremendous amount of stress in their bodies.
Yeah.
And it's found that with track and field athletes, the injuries they happen over time. They don't just happen, they happen over time. So if you can figure out where these stress points are within the shoe, within the heel, within the toe, up into the hamstring, the quads, you can help prevent these injuries and sort of tailor make workouts and things to make them more efficient.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Like the efficiency of your technique, you might be running improperly. The shoes might not be matching up with your body structure. But yeah, so like these devices, it's actually called RunScribe. It gathers data so that it pinpoints where you're having fatigue in your body. Right. And yeah, I mean, for that pro level, that it's essential because you want to be able to, optimize your performance, especially if you're competing. And if you could figure out ways where you can, execute a better performance to have a better result, then yeah, those analytics go a long way, especially for athletes that are sponsored by major companies that have endorsements. Sure. Like if I'm gonna, endorse you, I want to make sure that you are, optimally fit.
Well, as you can guess, Nike Fit Lab is all over this. They're really spent a lot of money in this technology and other folks as well. So I think it's interesting because I think it's the future of sort of athletics. We're getting away from the whole. Well, we're not getting away from the performance enhancing stuff, but this is a new sort of way to use technology as performance enhancing as opposed to using medicine and and drugs as performance enhancing. We'll see.
I got to move on. So I was going to say that I think the key thing about this too is that they're finding, a lot of scientists are finding that a lot of injuries that athletes are having are actually genetic in the sense that when it happens over time is because they have a certain gene that is being triggered over time, and so it comes out. And so they're trying to use these trackers as a way to determine if you have a certain gene, if you're predisposed to a certain injury based on that gene.
Wow. So okay, I didn't know that. That's actually very fascinating and could be very good as well. So Snapchat had a big launch this week, which I was actually kind of excited about. They launched Snapchat Discover, which was kind of a game changer. Just because it was kind of a game changer. Basically those who have Snapchat, know what this is. This is a feature on Snapchat that allows you to press a button and then go to these different portals where you can get video content and text content from all these various subscribers via CNN, Food Network, National Geographic, and others. And I think it's pretty cool. It's actually a gateway into being able to deliver content to the masses. It's another
to just Snapchat at you right now, by the way.
Oh, look at that. Look at you. Real time.
It's real time.
It's real meta up in here.
That's right.
Oh, my word. I really like that Snapchat is kind of changing up their game, like the whole fact that you can send, for your friends money, if you're doing stuff like that. Or, I mean, I haven't really get to use the discovery part. I do like that you have the new ad symbol that you could just send out, that if you take a picture of it, you automatically add the person.
Yep.
So I really like that.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Changing it up.
Well, the significance of this is just a real game changer in terms of a small company like Snapchat, why they're so valuable, because they have their base, and then what they do is you flip from an information service where two people, a person-to-person information service, to something where they're able to broadcast to the masses.
Sure.
And then that's it, and then deliver ads through that, and it's extremely valuable.
I think another angle to it is, you talk about the juggernaut of Facebook and how they're dominating in the social space, especially in the mobile business space. And so I know Snapchat is obviously for mobile, so they want to be able to carve out a little bit more of that market share with the mobile business. And so. Facebook wanted to buy Snapchat for a few B's. Yes. They said no, and so they're smart. They're going up against Facebook in the sense that you can deliver text, photo, video, and now you can also discover other pieces of content. Yeah, in a more efficient way, in a more cool way. So we'll see how Snapchat grows over the years.
I'm just glad that it's not like the typical how everybody thought Snapchat was going to be, just like, oh, you could send nudes to people and no one will know kind of thing. So I'm really glad that they've changed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Ever do that? Joe.
Okay, I'll be blasted.
Just kidding. Love you.
It's all right. Just, I don't worry about any of those Snapchats being deleted because they're automatically deleted. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to move to, speaking of social media, and you mentioned Facebook. Facebook is actually Facebook had a monster 2014, and is on pace for a even bigger 2015. But one of the things they're doing this year, which is really cool, is they're trying to go at Twitter during the Super Bowl, and they're trying to figure out, like, Twitter's really sort of owned the sort of real-time space, in media in general. The most valuable things on television now are live events. That's why Super Bowl is, the highest rated thing ever. That's why all the Super Bowl ads go there, because you're watching a live event.
Water cooler moment.
You have to DVR it. Same thing with the Oscars and live sports events, so World Series and whatnot. So because of this, these things are also often the largest tweeted. This is a shared community where people can tweet real time. So Twitter really dominates in these things, and Facebook is like, have been dying to figure out a way to get in this conversation, and now they're doing this big thing for Super Bowl where they're doing a hub, what they're calling a hub, where they're having actual play-by-play of the game. They're having actually clips of the game. They're having an ability for everyone to share and chat. They're really trying to take some of that real-time audience shared experience away from Twitter and move it over to Facebook. Do you think it'll work?
I definitely think it'll work. I think that if the hub is organized and presented in a way that I guess the user can navigate, smooth and fast, I think it'll definitely work.
Right.
And I think, already, Facebook is killing Twitter in terms of like ad revenue. So I mean, there's no discussion there. But yeah, if they're able to, bring that conversation onto their platform in a more heavy way,
right,
I think, man, they're gonna murder it, man.
Okay, we'll see. Well, speaking of ad revenue, Facebook shared their numbers, and people, they really don't share numbers a lot, but because they're a publicly traded company now, they're sharing their numbers.
Right.
They had an insane Q4.
Q4.
I mean, they really blew it up to the tune of all kinds of stuff. So just some bullet points. During the fourth quarter, Facebook did $3.6 billion in total ad sales.
It's crazy.
Which is a 53% increase over...
In 3 months.
In 3 months.
90 days.
It's $3.6 billion in 90 days. Just to put that into perspective, in the television game at upfronts, in the entire television game, when you go into upfronts, what they do is they do about $8 billion of revenue for the year initially. It probably ends up about $12 billion for the year, but this is all of TV. This is TV, cable, the whole
shebang.
The whole shebang is about $8 to $12 billion in ad revenue, which is a tremendous amount of money. Usually lands somewhere about $9 billion.
I mean, this is amazing, man.
Facebook did $4 billion in 3 months.
$12.5 billion for the whole year. And you got to think. Like I read an article that said Facebook. I mean, obviously, no comparison to Google.
Sure.
But Facebook will probably rock in the number of 10% of all online ad buys. 10%. That's huge.
These numbers are actually, they actually really surprised me. Like, Facebook hit about 3 billion views daily, which is not a huge surprise, but it's just really the size of these numbers.
For sure.
Let's see.
The user base is huge. They're over, like you said, they're over 3 billion, I believe, of users, and I think 800 million use it every single day. Their mobile game is like in the 800, 900 million number range. So
their mobile sales, their ad sales, 69% of their ad sales came from the mobile section at 2.5 billion, which is a lot. That's in quarter 3. Mobile app the mobile app alone has 75 million daily viewers. The Messenger does about 560 million monthly users. I mean, these numbers are staggering. So, we'll see where it goes, but it really just speaks to...
We know where it goes.
Up. Well, and this is what we'll talk to our guest Anthony about this too, but it speaks to the power of social media, as a predominant force of media and primarily the predominant force of ad delivery.
Man.
All media is a delivery service for ads.
For sure.
Let's try to find the most effective delivery service for ads. At one point, it was magazines. Then it was a sort of radio. Then it was television.
This is the new frontier.
And now it's this.
I think too, for Facebook within this year cycle, they've really like grasped hold of like using the video component and allowing companies to be able to promote that way. And I think as we grow with the technology and how fast we're able to communicate visually or with video, you're going to see more of a proliferation of that, and that's going to propel even more ad revenue for the company. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially you'll have commercials running all the time on Facebook, but you'll be able to curate them to your personal likes and tastes. So, and
then also for content creators such as ourselves and other folks out there, it opens the door for tons and tons. This is content. Snapchat as well. There's all these are more and more distribution methods for content and content creators, and with these ad sales being what they are, it's more and more ways for advertisers to be able to monetize. So it's a really exciting time for that.
For sure.
you know, we'll get to that. We'll get that with Anthony later on too. I do want to talk about, speaking of sales, the iPhone is iPhone 6, which we both went out and purchased first day.
We did.
We talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
we left this show
and went and grabbed
our iPhone 6. And apparently we're not the only ones, because they have also done some record numbers here.
It's amazing.
You know, 74.5 million iPhones.
It's crazy.
In the last 3 months. They also had a giant Q4. Apple did.
Yeah.
You know, it's an increase of 23.5 million. I mean, it's a jump of 46%. I mean, again, what I want to say about Facebook is, before, the demise of Facebook has been greatly exaggerated.
Right.
As we talked about before, people all talk about the death of Facebook, and Facebook's not going to survive. And then they have the biggest Q4 ever.
Of course.
Same thing with Apple. You know, the demise of Apple has been greatly exaggerated.
It's the ebb and flow of it all. You know, I think Apple's success with the iPhone, especially, is because of them inking a deal with China. I mean, you know, having access to, you know, way more consumers.
Like 1 billion.
Close to 1 billion of people that are grabbing the iPhone. So I mean, that obviously is going to contribute to the sale number skyrocketing and increasing. And as the years, you know, continue on, like, China's going to be a huge market for all these products.
Right.
And so I think Apple's really doing it big, though, especially with the iWatch coming soon, the Apple Watch coming soon. So
right. A couple more quick things before we get into our guests. I want to talk about Sony, you know, partnered with Spotify to launch their PlayStation streaming music service. This is something I don't use, I don't care about, but it's a big deal apparently. I mean, do you use?
Yeah, all the time.
So, okay, so why do you use Spotify? So this is interesting for me, because I'm a Spotify user, but I'm also an Xbox user as well. I'm not a PlayStation person, so I don't understand or care about whatever Sony Unlimited Music, which is the old Sony streaming system.
For sure.
I don't know, Alexis, do you use that?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Mostly just like if I'm having a get together.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like grabbing my computer and my speakers and things like that. I'll have my PS3 or my PS4 playing it.
I mean, I think it's a good partnership. I think
like it.
Sure.
It's the best, you know, best in music, and arguably maybe the best in gaming. You know, synergizing. We've seen, you know, Spotify do this with Uber, so you're seeing you're seeing these brand collaborations.
Yeah.
I mean, to expand their market internationally,
sure.
Maybe you can incorporate your music into your gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways that, you know, you find the synthesis of connectivity.
But I wonder for brand loyalty sense, because I'm
just broke my iPhone.
Sorry, it's all right. You can buy another one. Apple doesn't need the money.
I know.
But for me, for brand loyalty's sake, you know, I'm an Xbox guy, so. I'm an Apple person as well. It makes Apple is really ramping up their partnership with Beats Music, so it makes you wonder, like, should I switch my whole game over to Beats Music to be more in sync with my iPhone? Does it matter? You know, I think about my Xbox. I'm an Apple guy, but I'm an Xbox guy.
Right.
You know, it's all of these sort of partnerships really are sort of jolting brand loyalty. You know,
I mean, we're finding this on many, like, levels, like in terms of broadcast, in terms of music, in terms of like all of this stuff. It's interesting, like how the teams are forming essentially.
Right. One last couple of quick hits. Drone crash on the White House lawn.
Why did you do that?
I know. I was gonna say.
I was there. You know, we have to bring some. We talk about drones a lot, and you know, President Obama talked a lot about, like, how there's no, you know, the curve. The technology curve is always far ahead of the legal curve and the regulation curve. The FAA is not really doesn't have anything really in place for drones flying around.
Right.
Jeff Bezos' idea of, like, having drones deliver packages to you is kind of far away. But you know, we've used drones for shoots and stuff, and you know, and drones are, you know, they're ubiquitous at this point. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how this shakes down.
I'm just pissed, man. This one dude just had to mess it up for everybody.
Well,
right?
They're gonna have all these laws implemented saying I can't fly my drone into your house.
Well, the irony is, like, if of all places for drones to crash, the White House lawn.
I'm sorry, I would do it. I'd be like, hey, I was the guy.
Yeah, well, he did cop to it and talk to the Secret Service.
He had better cop to it.
All right, last quick things before we get to our guests. On the geek side, Indiana Jones.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Well, Chris Pratt is allegedly going to be the new Indiana Jones, and they're in talks to maybe do this. You know, of course, none of us know. That's
funny.
None of us know how we feel about this. But, you know, as an old person, you know, this is a seminal movie for me. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. You know,
It's one of my all-time favorite movies.
No, I was just referring to you saying you're an old person, but
I mean,
continue.
I know. But you know, my friend Chris Pratt is. It's one of the things I do not like about Hollywood and what, you know. I'm a participant of this, but like, you know, you get one hot person and then you want to like put them in every franchise.
Saturate them out.
I remember a long time ago when Denzel talked about like you know, when he did Malcolm, and he then Spike wanted him to do Jackie Robinson, then Spike also wanted him to do Martin Luther King, and Spike's response was, "I can't be everybody," you know, which I really like. Chris Pratt can't be everybody.
He can't. However, I can see him playing this role.
I can see him playing this role too.
Yeah, I mean, like my friend had a funny tweet. He said something like, you know, one day we'll be telling our grandkids about a time where Chris Pratt wasn't in every movie, and they'll just look at you like, say, "Shut up, Grandpa." Chris Pratt's everybody.
Hey, interesting to see what they do with this.
It is interesting.
I mean, it's going to be better than them trying to have Shia LaBeouf take over.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're right about that.
Yeah.
The next thing, we'll skip the asteroid story because
we covered it last week.
We covered it last week, but I do want to talk about briefly before we get back into tech stuff on the entertainment side. New Ghostbusters cast announced. They were going to make this movie. Well, they've been trying to make this movie for years and years and years. They had the unfortunate passing of Harold Ramis, which sort of got the original cast sort of off. Now they're doing a complete reboot with Paul Feig, the director of Bridesmaids, and the. What's the other one he did? I can't remember the name.
Heat.
Heat. Thank you. The Heat, which is funny. Has a new one coming called Spy.
Yep.
But this is he's funny, and this is funny. And I gotta say, I'm kind of into this casting because, you know, Kristen Wiig's a no-brainer, Melissa McCarthy's a no-brainer, but I do love me some Leslie Jones, and I love me some Kate McKinnon.
Yep.
Two very, very funny ladies, and I don't know how this is not funny.
I don't see how it's not funny either. I think it'll be hilarious.
Yeah. So very much looking forward to that. Okay. So shifting gears. Shifting gears. We have a guest this week. We have our guy Anthony R. Howard, who is a very accomplished tech expert. He's a best-selling author. He's a technology expert. Been around working for firms for the last 12 years. We'll let him tell you a little bit more about that. He's won all kinds of awards. Most notably, what I like, most notably for me, he was named the #1 IT superhero by InfoWorld and Computer World, which I love that. Wow. IT superhero.
That's dope.
I don't have that. He's done a ton of work for the defense sector, the Department of Defense and Homeland Security, and some private security firms and some other things as well. He's an expert, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about some social media stuff, which we've been talking about, and also transition into some defense stuff.
Right.
I think he's on the line right now. Anthony, are you there?
Yes. I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Welcome to the show, Ant.
Welcome to Geek.Nerd.Tech. I'm Joe, and that's Keely, and then the female voice here is Alexis. We're here.
Hi.
Hello.
All right.
Wonderful day, everybody. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you. So just, briefly, why don't you give us a little, I kind of did a hacky job of sort of giving your credentials, but, why don't you give us tell us a little bit about yourself, in about 30 seconds.
All right. First thing is I'm a best-selling author, and that's one of my most proudest achievements. Sure. And author of the books The Invisible Enemy, Black Fox, and The Invisible Enemy 2, Vendetta, which are books written about what's really going on behind the scenes in the Department of Defense. So
right.
The spies that the FBI caught, right? Back I was in the Department of Defense realm and wrote, hey, how does this happen? How are spies trained and recruited? What technologies are they using? What's going on? And as you said, a lot of awards, a lot of case studies have been published on my solutions across the IT industry. Currently, I provide technology solutions and advisement for some of America's most distinguished clients: Google, U.S. Defense Sector, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security.
Never heard of them.
Who's that?
I thought you said you were accomplished.
I have an MBA, and then also relocated to the Netherlands for about a year and a half to solve technology issues for American-based companies and even for military logistics. So
that's awesome, man.
That about caps it up. And then you talked about some of the cool awards, and I got the Fossey Award, which is the nation's largest information technology exposition serving the government. Got the Best New Technology Award.
Great.
That's the geeky stuff, the geeky background.
Sure. Well, it's very much in line with what we do here and what our listeners and viewers on YouTube and stuff want to hear about. What we've been talking about today a little bit. We've been talking a lot about these giant social media companies and the proliferation of these giant social media companies. And I just want your opinion, because we talk a lot about sort of what at least I do, the paranoia of sort of these large companies, how large they're becoming, and how they essentially profit on collecting and monetizing our personal information and blah 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 blah. I mean, I participate in this as well, but can you talk to us about like the Twitters, the Snapchats, the Facebook of the world? Can you talk to us about like, what consumers should be worried about?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm saying like,
talk about those.
Like no, so just like maybe a little bit about those, but primarily what consumers should be concerned about with these large companies, if anything.
If for consumers, three things are really what you really need to know and be concerned about. And the first one is your data and your habits are being stored, right? So this cool stuff, and you talked about the iPhone earlier in the show. That is part of the conspiracy, I like to call it, but that's because I'm a spy novel writer. So what is actually going? So cloud has been around for a while. It's just offsite data hosting, but what they're doing now is they're using that to keep consumers locked into a specific product or a specific brand. So, for example, if you have an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 5 or 4, and you press that cool iCloud button, and then your photos and your contacts and all that stuff gets backed up to the magical unicorn known as the cloud. Right. Now, what's actually happening is all of your data, all of your photos, all of your everything is going on to Apple servers, and that data is being stored in catalogs with what we call metadata.
Right.
That metadata, right, is stored, and we can create a psychological profile on that particular user. Now, what do we do with a psychological profile? We create ads and shopping habits. So if you now go to apps or the internet on your iPhone, ads based on where you live, what sites you've been to, what stores you've been to, will pop up, monetizing that information.
Right.
All right. So we also have your pictures. Okay. So pictures of, maybe you passed out drunk, or family photos.
Oh, not me, brother, not me.
When you tag people or send those to people, right, that information is also stored. That metadata is also stored in catalogs. So even if you delete the picture
still
off
stored,
of Facebook, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's still cataloged, again, in what we call metadata, which lasts how long? Forever.
Forever.
So that is what I speak to youth about a lot, is they don't know that they post pictures in high school of partying and flipping the bird to the camera.
Right.
Okay, when employers go and Google your name, that picture can come up because it's tagged to your metadata, which is tagged to your name.
You're saying that
So
fingerprint
you
lasts
didn't post
forever.
that picture anywhere. It can happen. So that's the first thing, is know that your data and your habits are really being stored.
Well,
the second thing.
Wait, let me jump in. Let me jump in on that. Let me jump in on that really quick, because that's a lot of important information. Before we get to the second thing, I want to just elaborate on that, because we hear a lot about Facebook in particular. There's a story out middle of last year about some Facebook scientists sort of messing around with an algorithm that sort of like, with all the information they have, sort of predicting if couples will be together and stay together. And with all this metadata, Google, Facebook, all these other ones are able to do more than just, we talk now about the algorithm used to be able to sell you ads, but you have all this information. There's limitless other things that they're using this stuff for, potentially using this stuff for. I mean, what do you know about that? I mean, we can get to the second thing in a second, but like, what do you know about any of that stuff? I'm just curious about, is that really true that they're actually...
That is absolutely true, which is the second thing. You hit right on. The second thing is your data and your habits are being sold, right? Ad companies pay millions for this data, right? Because they know who's single. If you're searching, eHarmony or whatever the trendiest online dating, they know where you live because it's based off GPS coordinates that are in the tower that they also have, and you tag yourself in photos based on location. They know that. I was also one of the architects behind what is now called Google Earth. I don't know if a lot of people use that, but basically it's teaming with Google and NASA to put satellites in the sky to look down on everything. So if you were to go on Google Earth now, put in your address, a satellite would literally zoom down to your street and virtually walk north-south. You can see all your neighbors' houses, your car in the front. So all that information about you is cataloged, and it creates this psychological profile, which is then sold without your knowledge to marketing companies, financial companies, or financial services companies, or even folks like Spokio, who basically catalog information for people who do private searches on people and things like that.
I gotta ask you, man. I gotta ask you, being that we're in this information and connection economy where we all are, searching for for information about topics, and we're all trying to like have some sense of connectivity with each other. Like how is this a good thing? Like how would you argue that this is a good thing? Or would you argue that?
Thing. I think it's way too much data. And you actually hit on something very important earlier when you were talking about the drones. You said the technology curve is always ahead of the legal curve, right? So right now there's no, the privacy laws, there's so many loopholes where they can store data and sell data with almost no repercussions because there's no laws about what they can, because you have voluntarily pushed the iCloud button and uploaded your data. So they can sell it as a backup service, but really what it really is, it's a big data or analytical data machine where you just, I think you said earlier there was some odd millions of iPhones sold in the first quarter. So all those people, they have free information on 6 million people, their shopping habits, their surfing habits, where they live, and they can sell that information. So to me, no, that's not a good thing at all.
So then my
profitable thing.
My follow-up question is, how do you navigate this landscape of technology when you have all your information, siphoned, categorized, and then used either against you? Like how do you plug in essentially?
Remember, the golden rule is what I had to speak at the School of Business and Industry Forum of college students, and I told them the golden rule: do not put anything on the cloud or on social media that you do not want the world to see forever, because the internet doesn't forget.
Right.
And I'm one of the architects that architected how the Google search engine works, which is you have retriever servers which crawl for data all day, which crawls the metadata, which is how it's cataloged and archived, and it doesn't go away.
Right.
So even if you did something 15 years ago, and an employer pulls it up and sees a picture of you with your middle finger to the camera, right? They don't know that's 15 years ago. Yeah. Because a lot of interviews are done, over the phone or online or what have you. So you might be written off and not know why. You didn't get a call back, and you don't know why. It's because that employer saw what you put on LinkedIn or Facebook. And you might say, oh, well, Facebook has privacy settings now.
Right.
No.
Well, and then I want to get to, because I have a question too, but before I get to the question, I want to get to number 3. Did you get to number 3? Because we were jumping in with some questions.
No, number 3 was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, which was, hey, how can you use this to your advantage, right? So your information's out there. How can you use it to your advantage? So that's what I wanted to hit on. Which third thing, which was, hey, you can create a brand and treat social media as free advertising for you. So, for example, let's say for your next show, Black Hollywood Media, Geek.Nerd.Tech, you wanted to say, hey, I want to have a show next month, and I want to try and get 100,000 listeners. And what is the name of a show that would get the most clicks, the most likes, and the most traffic on social media? And of course, since we have all this data and research done, right, there's certain words and things that you guys can use, or any business can use, to get more free traffic than they would otherwise get by just putting a normal title. So for instance, if today's topic would be social media and business advice and tips, that would get a certain amount of hits. But if you related it to the more human version, which gets a lot of traffic on social media and the reposts and the likes, if you put tips for social media and business that will keep you from going broke,
right.
Bam. Using the humanistic versions of titles actually catapults business, shows, television into the social media realm where people can comment, blog on what they, based on what they saw on the show, which actually gives you hundreds of thousands of more hits than you would normally get. So you can kind of use it to your advantage based off of some of the analytics that are being done with your information. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And I want to jump over, because we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left. I want to jump to some of this defense technology and some questions we had. Sony hack. I just saw Black Hat in the theater. I'm very concerned about all this stuff. But before I jump into that, one last question on one thing I'm concerned about is, we talked about don't put anything in the cloud that you don't want to be there forever. What about the future of like the things like Bitcoin, or like more importantly like Apple Pay? What about the commerce that happens, sort of like this all of this sort of I don't want to call it e-commerce, but this new economy of like payless, moneyless economy? Should we be concerned? I mean, I signed up for Apple Pay. I'm kind of using it, but I'm concerned about it. Are those things a concern in your opinion?
Or like even the fingerprint touch and all that stuff?
Since I come from the Department of Defense, I'm actually concerned about all this stuff, because I know where it can go, the darkest places. So I personally don't use Apple Pay. That's not to say that Apple Pay is bad. Right. What a cashless society, or cashless society, where every transaction can be monitored and engaged, I don't think that's good for free enterprise at all. I think it's another mechanism of control, but that's just my personal opinion. So I don't use Apple Pay just because I like, the way things are done, credit cards, cash, and for me as an author, it's a lot easier to do transactions with things like that because it's easy and there's no fee associated with, and you don't have to go through Apple. So for instance, if I did do Apple Pay but I wanted to move away from Apple, you couldn't do that. So I don't like being locked into one single technology. I like the best of breeds, and that's just my personal opinion.
Fair enough. I want to jump over to using your defense background and talk a little about that. We just had this big Sony hack. This is big news here in Hollywood and made national news, of course, because it may or may not have come from Korea, North Korea. And there's all this talk about Russia and the growth of all these crazy young hackers in Russia who did nothing better to do than to hack. I just saw Black Hat, which kind of scared the ish out of me. How big of a threat is all this stuff? And what this sort of cyber terrorism and all this stuff? How serious is this?
It's real. It's very serious, and more serious than what you hear on the news. It's the stuff that you don't hear, because the stuff you hear on the news are the people that got caught, are the schemes or scandals that got uncovered and exposed, right? The spies that are just really phenomenal are the ones that never get caught. I don't know if you remember, in 2010, the FBI actually caught an entire ring of spies planted here by Russia since birth to live and breathe as American citizens and to sleep with high-level officials and do other scandalous stuff to influence American policy, and they were all caught. They had fake American names and passports.
It's like the TV show The Americans.
Their real names, real Russian names that they never used, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of rings like that, not just from Russia but from everyone. So it's those that you don't hear about that worry me. So the Sony hack was bad, and they did the movie, they leaked the movie, or they didn't like it because it reflected their leader in a bad way. But all in all, what happened was, the movie got leaked, and there were some threats made, and then there was some slight retaliation by the United States, and then the media moves on to something else. Now, what about those hackers that have a knock list that's exposing every asset that America has all over the globe and matching the code names to the real American aliases?
The Edward Snowdens of the world, or the WikiLeaks.
So the Edward Snowdens, right? Those, and again, he wasn't by himself. They like to make him seem like, he was some guy who got mad and exposed the NSA. No, he couldn't have got out of the country like that. He had some help. He had some help, especially when they knew who he was, and the guy's on TV, but they still can't capture him. So easy to say that he had a lot of foreign help. He was not acting alone. And then to answer your question, how serious is this, right? Cyber threats and cyber terrorism, cyber hacking, right? That's the next wave of criminal.
Right.
Organized crime is also using this type of attack to hijack companies and get ransoms and get your website back, or denial of service attacks, things like that. So it is very serious, and it is the part of the next wave of combat.
I mean, you're starting to see a lot of you're starting to see a lot of that even in television. I think they're having a new the CSI Cyber, I think that's what it's called, coming out. I did want to ask you, because we're about to wrap, but I want to ask you a question about African American people in the field of technology. Do you feel that we are well? I guess how I want to frame it. Well represented. Yeah. Like, do you come across a lot of brothers and sisters that are in the field that you're in, or are you kind of like a few to none?
I do not feel like African Americans are represented in the technology field, and I think it is because just in general, for any field, African Americans, we're less likely to get hired without the experience. But how do we get the experience unless we get hired?
Chicken
right?
before the egg.
That's always what I hear.
Right.
Catch-22. So, in my opinion, no, it has gotten better. So 15 years ago, when I started in this field, there were just almost none.
Wow.
That I would come across on a regular basis. Now, maybe about 2 to 3% of who I come across, but still, right? That's not necessarily great, but we'll call it progress, and because it's more than what was 15 years ago. But in my opinion, definitely not.
Wow.
It is a hard field to get into, especially at the level things are now, because clients and companies, they want something proven, especially when it comes to African Americans, something that's someone who's already done it. And then we're not judged on our potential, we're judged on what we've done. So I think that's part of the reason why. So what I tell folks who want to break into the technology industry and become a consultant or a strategist is, pick the company you want to be with, right? Start in sales or start in, whatever junior role you can get, and then you use that company's free training and use their, time to analyze the competitive landscape, and from there you can go wherever you want, because, there's lots of ways to maneuver within companies. So don't try and jump in at the strategist or senior technology role immediately. It does take some years even if you get into a junior role. So that was my advice, and that's really how I broke into it and where I am today.
Nice, man.
Yeah, well, and that's great advice, and having people like you that we can point to and look to are also helps the young folks who want to be and get into this stuff. We're out of time, unfortunately, Anthony, and it was a pleasure having you for this brief amount of time. We definitely want to have you back because I want to get a little more into some of the defense stuff as well, and this is topics we always touch on. So we'd love to have you back to be able to talk to more stuff, and actually I really want to talk about these books as well. So hopefully we can have you back here.
I'd love to be back anytime.
Okay,
anytime.
Fantastic.
Before you go, man, shout out your Twitter handle or where people can find you.
Website, AnthonyRHoward.org. Again, that's AnthonyRHoward.org. And again, the name of the books are The Invisible Enemy, Black Fox, and The Invisible Enemy 2, Vendetta.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you for joining us.
And much success to you, man.
Much success.
Thank you very much.
That's going to do it for us on Geek.Nerd.Tech today. Bit of a short show, but we got to get out of here. Thanks again to our guest, Anthony R. Howard. Keely Sean, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on none of the social media sites because they're collecting all my information.
Well, you can still find me on Instagram at Joe K. Braswell and Twitter at Joe K. Braswell. And Alexis, what about you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at atorres890. That's ATORRES 890.
Cool. That's it for that. We'll see you next week for more Geek.Nerd.Tech and stories and fun stuff and everything else. That's all we got. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
And our rhythm with that.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.